There we go. Fellow sports fanatics, welcome back to Mr. Sports Overview Topics himself, A. Joe 21 Love, here to talk about Korean Zombie, his retirement, after a fun fight with Max Holloway this past weekend in Singapore. The NFL preseason is officially done. We saw Aaron Rodgers debut in a Jets uniform. Give our thoughts on how the offense looked ahead of their heavyweight regular season debut versus the Buffalo Bills in 2 weeks, or could say almost a week and a half, on Monday Night Football to end week one. But give thoughts on at the NFL cut day was today as I'm recording this. So give thoughts on some surprises. There weren't really many surprises, but give thoughts on some of the guys that were cut, and where they may get a second chance or may get another chance on a roster. Just have to be more patient. And also, college football is back. It really started up again Saturday, but this weekend is really the big portion really starts for college football and all the measurements. Give my thoughts on the standings, the current rankings, top 25. It's going to be a good podcast. So get your popcorn ready. Whether you're listening to some tunes or driving or whichever, hearing this, being safe, of course. But thank you for tuning in. Before we get into this, of course, I gotta mention, subscribe. Thank you all for 21 subscribers thus far. Let's try to get it up. Of course, if you're new, feel free to hit that subscription box there. Find all ways to my videos, sports included, on the channel, so you can take a look at those. Notification bell as well. But get the gist. Thank you all, and if you like this video as well, be sure to leave a thumbs up at the end of the video, or now, whichever, your choice. But last, thank you, and let's get going. So, the Korean Zombie, Chan Sung Chung, called it a career after over a decade affiliated with the UFC. Unfortunately, has called it reached the summit, or the end game of his UFC run after a fun fight versus Max Holloway. UFC Singapore Saturday morning, depending where you were. But last was fun fight. Max knocked him out in the third round. You know, again, it's a fun fight. You know, but the story here first is about Korean Zombie, Chan Sun Chung. I mean, he certainly was throwing one of the most throwing parts or throwing pieces of integrating UFC integrating the guys from WEC, the smaller weight classes, welterweight, lightweight, featherweight, bantamweight, all those guys. He was one of the first interesting cats come from and debut a part of those weight classes, and was certainly a name for a decade, pretty much. Even when he had to go for a few years to finish his military training, he came back again. Beautiful knockout over Dennis Bermudez, and really showed that he's still one of the top featherweights in the world. But before that, cannot discount some of the moments he certainly had in the UFC. I mean, he provided the first ever twister submission in the UFC with, over Leonard Garcia. That was certainly a first. And really showed off his versatility. And then coming off that, the shortest knockout and the quickest knockout, we should say, in featherweight history. Knocking out then former title challenger Mark Homnick less than 10 seconds. And then after that, he beat Dustin Poirier along to 8. Originally, it was supposed to be Jose Aldo first, I believe, Frankie Edgar. And then it turned to Jose Aldo versus Chan Sung Chung. Unfortunately, he suffered an injury in that fight, which derailed him a bit, but he certainly made his way to come back. And then right after his service, he knocked out Bermudez to really show that he's still one of the best at his weight class. The Yair Rodriguez fight was so unfortunate. So unfortunate. I mean, talk about a last second crusher. He was winning that fight, but he got a bit too eager, ran in, and at the last second caught an elbow. No discredit to Yair because that was a hell of a finish. Right place at the right time. But yeah, it was a setback getting knocked out at last second, and but would still make his way back with wins over Hanato Moicano and Frankie Edgar, and the Brian Ortega fight that was brewing for a while, and he got he held his own for a while in that fight, but ultimately Ortega is just great class in that division. So then he would beat, then Ige and Volkanovski ended up calling him out. And we all know how tough Korean Zombie is, but yeah, that was considering the beating that Volkanovski put him. I mean, just jeez. And then ultimately, he said he was going to take time to see about his fight for Max Holloway before making a decision to retire. Ultimately, he held his own, but still a bad knockout to Korean Zombie. But he retires with nothing short of a laundry list of fun moments in the UFC, and we duly missed one of those guys that, yeah, he always found a way close, but when it came to the upper echelon, he just couldn't hit. He just couldn't, get over those fights. And yeah, I mean, although, Holloway, but nonetheless, great fighter, entertaining fighter, and yeah, well, hope for the best of them and retirement. As far as his adversary, and Max Holloway, this puts him in a unique place because Max, it's weird. He lost 3 times to Volkanovski at the end of the day. We saw him try to move up the last couple years to lightweight. He tried on a week's notice to face Khabib. Obviously, there was a scare with his, hydration and mental well-being. So, thank goodness he caught that in time. But there was that. He moved up to fight Dustin Poirier for his, excuse me. He fought Poirier but lost in a decision, which would have given him another shot to face Khabib. But it's unfortunate he lost in that fight. So yeah. we'll see what is in Holloway. Holloway, if he retires now, I mean, Holloway, I wouldn't say unless there was well, who knows? But Holloway certainly, for me, could retire and become a Hall of Famer with some of the things he has done in the UFC, or at least have a case. But, we'll see. Either way, well, Eri Tapura, however you pronounce his name, he's been talking a big game the last number of weeks. And I'm sure I'm sure Max would love to shut that guy's mouth. If I know Max at all, which I don't, but I'm sure that would be an interesting bout if they don't give it to Volkanovski, but we'll see. NFL preseason is officially in the books for 2023. And I mean, we did have some good moments, I think we can say, especially this past weekend. As we get that final tape, looking for guys continuing to prove themselves, trying to make roster spots. We obviously had some highs with the lows here. Steelers, I don't know what more could you say. They look. Now again, it's preseason. Some of the competition may not be up to par, but Steelers look prime and ready, as you expect, offensively, especially for the regular season. I mean, Kenny Pickett looks sharp. George Pickens, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. Yeah, it's going to be a unique thing. Roderick Jones, that duo of Roderick Jones and Darnell Washington may be the real unique duo to put them a step or two further into making a playoff run. On offense, TJ Watt, it was great to see him get that sack in that game. Hopefully he stays healthy for their sake. I mean, he missed half the season last year, and they still finished 9-8. So curious how they fare with a healthy TJ this season. Colts over the Eagles, good for the Colts' sake. Anthony Richardson flow well on a touchdown drive. Mocked the Eagles in the process, but throwing the ball. Rushing, Minshew had an efficient night. McKee had another fun night for the Eagles. Ian Book had his most efficient night of the preseason. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. Excuse me. I mean, look at it, 8, 11, and 15. for 8 yards. I mean, it's weird to say, but it feels like he could use some more development. Gane, the MVP of the USFL Championship game for the Birmingham Stallions, he had a nice night for 6 carries, 62 yards, so good on him. Shit, where did I go? Aha, Lions Panthers. Tay Bridgewater has a new number. And he had a good night. As you expect, Nate Sudfeld unfortunately got hurt. So they're going to be in a weird place as they try to, I guess, develop, Hendon Hooker still coming off his torn ACL, but Goff, we know he's going to be prime and ready for regular season. Bryce Young did have a better night, but as I expect, it's going to be a unique growing process with some growing pains for the Panthers. I don't expect them, although this division is a question mark, but I still have mostly the Saints with the Falcons being, very interesting. If Desmond Ridder plays better, I mean, I like him, but we'll see. But yeah, Bryce Young had a better day. Good for Panthers fans. We can say Patriots Titans game was weird. Malik Willis and Bailey Zappi, Malik Cunningham, who both got cut for the 53-man roster. One of them, I assume Zappi, will probably be brought back in for the practice squad or something. We'll see. And they'll probably bring a veteran, probably Bill Belichick's way of saying like, well, Mac Jones, you don't have to be looking over your shoulder. So there's that. Yeah, Jackie's Patrick, with the news about Hassan Haskins, he looks like he may be key for the backup job behind Derrick Henry if he can keep things going. The way he looked in the preseason thus far versus the Patriots and the Vikings. We'll see. Easton Sook, won the job over Max Duggan as far as backuping Justin Herbert with another efficient night over the 49ers, which pretty much sealed it. Sam Darnold had a good night for the 49ers right after Trey Lance getting traded, which reportedly was for a 4th round pick. Now, interesting because he was getting, prematurely directed or pointed to a couple teams, most notably the Vikings. And ultimately, he goes for a fourth round pick to Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Now, here's what I'll say for the Cowboys side. Look, anybody who's watched this show or watched this podcast know how I feel about Dak. Know how I feel about him. Know how I feel about the contract. The reality is, Trey Lance is much closer to Dak than Cooper Rush is to Dak. Plus, he still has, 2 years left on his 2 years plus the 5th year option because he was a number 3 pick. So you have potentially 3 years to mold him and see if he can be your future, provided Dak isn't, which I'm probably going to upset some Dak stands the more I talk about him. But the reality is I don't see him as their future. Last, we'll see. I don't expect him to come in and take the starting job. I'm just saying, he could make things interesting because when you saw the games the Cowboys played with Dak and Cooper Rush, you can tell there was a difference. Where when Dak was in, they threw it more. When Cooper was in, they relied more on what I believe may be their number one strength this year, their defense and the run game. Now, the defense is going to be very strong, I feel, this year. The running game is going to be a bit up in the air because even though Zeke regressed, he still scored 12 touchdowns and was so a good part in him and Tony Pollard. Plus, you don't know how Tony is going to rebound after that injury. I believe Deuce Vaughn will be the backup. So it's going to be more like a thunder and lightning, I feel, kind of duo in their eyes. We'll see. But, I mean, we'll see. But obviously it didn't work with the Niners, and it's unfortunate. If he was a late round pick, just circumstances. Giving up 3 first round picks for him, a guy that, now I get it, there are circumstances. He played really good 2019. COVID ruined another potential season. And then all of a sudden he was drafted 3rd overall by the Niners, who have a team that are going to win now, and we know how Jimmy G and Brock Purdy outplayed him last season. So, yeah. We'll see. So next up, dang it, work. Next up, aha. So then we go to Cardinals Vikings. I will say, offense felt okay for the Vikings. You know, it was 17-3, and next thing you know, it was 18-17. I mean, the Vikings had their chance, get back in things, but yeah. The big story is why I talk about this game. Colt McCoy was released by the Cardinals today, who was assumed to be the starter while Kyler Murray returns. But alas, that won't be the key, as it'll likely be Clayton Tune or Josh Dobbs. And Clayton Tune, he hasn't looked bad in preseason, so yeah. Bills, Bears, congrats to Tyson Bagent. He looked to be has won the backup job over PJ Walker behind Justin Fields, as they cut PJ yesterday and saw it there. Cal Allen, he was the backup. Josh Allen. You wonder, are they going to keep three quarterbacks? I have to check, but Mark Barkley, he's had up and he's had a horrible game. So that's an interesting battle there. Ravens Bucks, again, the turmoil. You got Kyle Trask, Baker Mayfield. Yes, Baker was labeled the starter. But Trask seems to still be doing well. Now, I think it may ultimately be the best thing for Trask, because if Baker underwhelms and Trask comes in and has to be the hero, then that's a lot better than not doing as well and being pulled for his development. So, alas, we'll see. I imagine they're a dark horse team. You know, yes, Brady's no longer there, but with their firepower and offense, and they still have many cats from their Super Bowl team on defense, they can be interesting. Also, good news that Daquan Davis, the receiver for the Dolphins, thankfully he was okay after a scary scene. I didn't see the play, but he was carted off the field and the game was suspended between the Jags and Dolphins. So good thing is that he's okay, back with team, and yeah. Also, one more thing about the Bills and Browns. No surprise that Damar Hamlin made the 53-man roster. I mean, good for him. He played well. Seahawks Niners. Jake Bobo. He made some good plays for the Seahawks. He could be another cat with the injury to Jackson Smith-Njigba. He could certainly be a piece to help him aside from Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. We'll see. Good for Sean Clifford. No surprise, he won the backup job behind Jordan Love. So yeah, good on them. Browns Chiefs decided by 1. 2 pick sixes, but alas, good for Juan Thornhill. I will say that against the Warren team, but seems like Deshaun Watson is getting a little more comfortable. It's just the way it seemed. He threw a tight, could have went the other way, but alas, he threw a touchdown to David Njoku. A long broken play for Amari Cooper, which agreed probably should have been a touchdown, but last good breakaway play. Chiefs are showing good signs for the young players, we'll have to say. Aaron Rodgers in his Jets rookie debut, we can say. I will say he played well. It looked a bit rocky, but the first drive, they made a few plays, but unfortunately injuries are not injuries. Penalties, persuade them of getting points. The second drive, yes, there were a few penalties. At the same time, Rodgers made some nice throws, culminating with the touchdown to Garrett Wilson in the end zone over. Yes, we can argue about cornerback all day, but alas, this is about seeing if Aaron Rodgers can make the throws, get some comfortability with the Jets. I think that's what everybody was looking for. We know the offensive line is going to be a work in progress with Vera Tucker coming back. Robert Saleh said that Mekhi Becton will start at right tackle. So I'm assuming Dwayne Brown is going to be a left tackle. He's going to be 38, 39. So I have to see about that. Laken Tomlinson, hopefully he's okay. And of course, you got Tippin, the young center. So it's going to be a work in progress. But if Rodgers can find the comfortability, and this is also in part of why I think they got Dalvin Cook, is also help out of the backfield. Because, yes, you got Garrett Wilson, who's your number one receiver, and Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, the guys he's comfortable with. But you have 2 solid tight ends, good, not great, in Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzomah, and of course you got Dalvin Cook and now Breece Hall back healthy out of the backfield. How healthy he'll be, I don't know. But I imagine those 4 are going to be mostly key to this moving in progress offensive line. So, yeah, we'll see. But I thought he looked okay. I give him a B for that performance. He did look a bit shaky, but I guess, comfortability. That's the word. On second, excuse me. We'll also have to say Jalen Hyatt has speed. And, I definitely say that the Giants have a target but we knew that. But he's going to be fun to watch with the Giants this season. Aiden O'Connell, he had another good preseason game, like you can expect. Will Greer plays arse off for the Cowboys. No surprise he was released with the trade of Trey Lance. But I won't be surprised if he's on a roster sometime tomorrow or at the end of the week. Rams Broncos, I think we can say this was easily the worst preseason game that Stetson Bennett had this preseason. But growing pains for him. Sim had a good day. Danucci had a better day. Unfortunately, he was cut. But we'll see. I mean, that's what I enjoy about the USFL and the XFL. More opportunity. Texans Saints was the last preseason game. Jimmy Graham, gotta admit, he made some nice plays from James Winston. Provided he can be healthy, he can be a good spot for him. I like Jake Hader. Besides the 2 picks, I like what he's done this preseason, and Lucas Kroll as well. He's been a shining light for Saints as well. And yeah, preseason is officially over. I will start making my picks again soon. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But from NFL football to once again being able to talk about college football, let's go over as the first weekend was in store. Give some of the highlights from the past weekend. Sam Hartman in his debut for Notre Dame. I tell you, against Navy. Now, we know there's a gap, and going to be a gap in talents between Navy and Notre Dame this season. But alas, first impressions are first impressions, and Sam Hartman, the former Wake Forest quarterback, plays arse off for Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. And, It's obviously not going to look like this the whole season, but he's my dark horse for the Heisman. I mean, with how well he played with Wake Forest and now rebounding to be on Notre Dame, he's my dark horse to be a Heisman this year. And to go from my dark horse to the guy that won the Heisman from last season, Caleb Williams. He was front and center. Now, San Jose State, they put up a good fight for as well as they could. But 56-28, Siobhan Cordero did play his butt off as well. We'll give him that. Caleb Williams, though, 18-25 for 278 and 4 touchdowns. I mean, certainly looks to be doing well and have USC we're on the right track for this season. And this week feels like the real first week of college football because we got some good matchups lined up for this week. Starting on Thursday, we got Florida versus number 14 Utah. We know how good that matchup can be, especially how it was last season to start. We got Michigan facing East Carolina. Colorado in Deion Sanders' debut taking on the national championship runner-up, number 17 TCU. Gonna be unique. You know, Colorado, it's gonna be a learning process. It's gonna be a building process. I mean, Travis Hunter, some of the guys they brought in are very good pieces. But with this regime, the whole moxie now about them, it's going to be interesting, though. The most interesting for Colorado as definitely the most excitement around Colorado in quite a while. But yeah, against TCU, again, we're in the national championship, and arguably the two biggest reasons as to why they were in the national championship, Max Duggan and Quentin Johnson, now unfortunately are not there anymore. But we'll see how it shakes down as they still battle in the Big 12. It's going to be unique. Ohio State versus Indiana. That's going to be unique in itself. I mean, to his brother, well, what's his name again? Fudge. Tala Viola. Or no, he's Maryland. My bad. See, I make issue on this show. But yeah, my bad. But still, Indiana can be a pain in the butt. And Ohio State, no CJ Stroud. Feels like a bit of pressure on Ohio State this year. You know, they've lost the past 2 times to the rivals, Michigan. they were a field goal away from facing TCU in the national championship, but that wasn't the case. So there's a field of pressure, certainly. And LSU versus Florida State, that's maybe the primetime showdown of this weekend. Number 5 LSU versus number 8 Florida State. It's gonna be unique, let's safely say. But before we get over too much, let's go over the current AP Top 25 of college football. And feel free to agree, disagree, but get my thoughts on the way. Georgia won, back-to-back national champions. Michigan, Ohio State, Bama 4, LSU 5, I mean, you can argue about Alabama and LSU all you want, but LSU is going to be very intriguing this season. USC 6, of course, they just won. You know, not surprised they're in the top 10. Penn State. Penn State, Florida State, Clemson. Now, the new quarterback, how they feel that's scenario in Klubnik. It's going to be interesting, we can say. Washington, 10, rounding up the top 10. Michael Penix Jr. is going to be one to watch, certainly, for the Heisman, and see how this range goes. Texas, 11. You know, the whole Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning dynamic. It does feel like not as much hype, I feel, as Colorado, but Texas has some hype and pressure, I feel, around them. Tennessee, J.P. Milton. He, from what I saw versus Clemson, he is going to be fun to watch for Tennessee. I mean, we thought Hendon Hooker was fun to watch last season for the Volunteers. Milton may exceed that. Just with what I saw, I was like, damn, that was fun. Notre Dame, I just spoke up about Harmon. 14, Utah. I mean, last year I was hoping they make the playoffs. They did beat USC twice. They were the back-to-back Pac-12 champions, which are now Pac-4. But, you know, with their team and their stellar quarterback, I I have belief in again they can, especially the new format. You know, I feel Utah can certainly make the playoffs this year. Oregon, I the gap between Oregon and Oregon State is a little confusing. Granted, it's 4 spots, but so Kansas State, the Big 12 champions, obviously being TCU, and you know losing Deuce Vaughn, that's gonna take a splash of speed out from them, but we'll see. Wisconsin and their new quarterback, that's going to be intriguing. It's going to be unique to see how Wisconsin shares this season. Mordecai. If Mordecai can learn the way they expect in the Big Ten, Wisconsin may make waves in the Big Ten. We'll see. New coach, obviously. We'll see. Oklahoma 21, UNC and Drake May. Little suspect. Ole Miss 22. 23, A&M 24. Tulane, who beat USC in that bowl game. They're going to be riding high. And Iowa, 25. So I would say a fair top 25 so far of the AP. I understand, Kansas State over TCU. I mean, I get most of it. Yeah, it's good. It's going to be intriguing, certainly. But yeah, certainly going to be a joy to see Ohio State, Indiana, which, again, I'm sorry, I confused Indiana, Maryland. But yeah. And then obviously Michigan plays. Trying to see how they play. Excuse me. LSU versus Florida State. Florida versus Utah. But yeah, we got some good matchups. May way for this weekend. Also this weekend, we got another interesting main event for the UFC. I like the UFC schedule if there's basically a card nearly every weekend. Might not necessarily be a good card and might not be free, but there's some gems on the card, which, I mean, Benoit Saint Denis for Thiago Moyes. That's an interesting fight. And the 155-pound division. Benoit 11-1-1 against Moisey, who's this fighter in his own right. I mean, gonna be a unique fight. Rose Namajunas in the co-main event. She moves down for flyweight. And Or wait, was she flyweight or strawweight? Fuck. Nonetheless, she'll be in the co-main event. Doug Rose facing off against Man Farad. It should be a decent fight. Obviously, it's always good to see Doug Rose in action. So yeah. And then the main event, former two-time world title challenger Cyril Gane, back in his home of France, gonna face another surging Russian in the heavyweight division, Sergey Spivac. Battle of unique top tens. Of course, Gane, last we saw, I mean, look, for those who have seen Cyril Gane fight, his fights throughout the career, I mean, it's hard not to be surprised at how he looked versus John Jones. Now, credit, that's just the beastly nature of John Jones. But I mean, still, that long, I mean, if it was maybe at the end of round or round two, I would have more not been surprised. But yeah, I mean, just how the way it looked, I mean, but gotta brush it under the rug, flush it down the drain. Gane back on the horse, back in France, facing Spivac, who looking to make a name for himself as well. So we'll see. Last he won a. Last he tapped out Derek Lewis in the first round in his last fight. 4-1 in his last five. Last losing to Tom Aspinall, who has his eyes on the winner of this fight. It's going to be unique, to say the least. But yeah, I would love to see Aspinall versus Cyril Gane. I think that would be a fun ass fight. But yeah, if I'm willing to bet, I'd say Cyril Gane. You know, we'll see how this fight goes around. So yeah, I would be reckless if I didn't mention, and yes, the Angels are probably not going to make the playoffs, but seeing the injury of Shohei Ohtani sucks. But thankfully, it's not detrimental in the fact that he can't play the rest of the season. Because he injured his UCL. He cannot pitch the rest of the season. He has still been hitting the last few games, and he's done well. But yeah, just sucks how the Angels, who by the way cut 5 players today, 5 players for salary. I think they probably know that, hey, you know, Trout, Ohtani, you know, with these guys healthy, we have a chance, as we thought. but not going to make the playoffs probably. They're probably looking toward next year. Yep. But yeah, that's pretty much the news for this week. Jonathan Taylor, he will start the year, by the way, on the PUP list. So to say, he will not be traded so far. See. The Patriots cut Bailey Zappi and Malik Cunningham. As I mentioned, Tom Swanstead was cut by the Jets. I think he's the last guy in the league to remain from the starters from when the Saints won the Super Bowl over a decade ago. Probably it. Albert Okwuegbunam. Sorry if I butchered his name, but the former fourth-round tight end of the Broncos traded from the Broncos to the Eagles. Melvin Gordon cut from the Ravens. I don't know. I think he could find himself on another team. We'll see. A couple of kicker trades. Nick Folk was traded to the Titans after he cut Michael Batchley. So Chad Ryland won the job for the Patriots. And Will Lutz traded to the Broncos, meaning Blake Grupe won the job for the Saints. So, moving kickers, are we? Including Dustin Hopkins. He's now the Browns kicker after a poor performance this preseason. Cade York. Again, nothing too surprising. Although it was a bit surprised of Austin Watkins getting cut, although they could resign him for the Browns. Good for the Rams. Make the trade with Steelers for guard Kevin Dotson. But yeah, nothing really. I felt bad from Ryan Jensen. I hate to. Well, I'm not going to leave with this, but I have to mention poor Ryan Jensen. So, the very good center for the Buccaneers, who is one of the best centers we've seen this decade. So last year, he had a knee injury, and fortunately for him, he made his way back and in time for playoffs, and they unfortunately got bounced out by the Cowboys in the wild card. So there you go. Then there's a report that Jensen, because he didn't get surgery, he opted to get injections, something, which now unfortunately has complicated his knee to the point where he's put on season-ending IR, and it may be career-ending because of, Snee, I mean, his age plays a factor in that too. I mean, it's just unfortunate because he was one of the big pieces, the big underrated pieces when, Brady and Gronk came over and there was talks about, playoff run, potentially Super Bowl. He was probably the most underrated piece because he was the center that kind of held the good glued together of Donovan Smith, Tristan Wirfs, I mean all those guys, Kappa when there was injuries, Alan Marpet, you get my point. But yeah, sucks. Yeah. But yeah, that's the podcast for you guys today. Covered a bunch today. Hope you guys enjoy it. Oh yeah, Isaiah Simmons traded from the Cardinals to the Giants for a 7th rounder. He made some plays versus the Jets. I mean, add some more depth on that defense. Archer's traded by Dick Martindale or Wink Martindale. So we'll see. But yeah, that's the podcast. If you guys like this video, leave a like, leave a thumbs up, help out the video. Excuse me. And the channel, of course, subscribe if you want to. Currently at 21. Come on. Hopefully we can get some more subscribers, perhaps. We'll see. But thank you all who have supported me thus far, and keep it going. So, see you guys next time. I'm Joe 2 in Love. Peace.